Hey there, Stampers. Happy Friday. Welcome to this week's Friday Live. A little later than normal this week because I had a busy morning. Okay, I'm just updating my iPad. My name is Sherry Roth. I'm a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Alberta, Canada. And most Fridays, I go live with a crafty project with you. And I love to share ideas on using scraps or creating with full sheets of pattern paper. So you can always check my YouTube channel for previous ideas. Today, I thought we would use some of the wider strips of patterned paper that we always end up with. And we're gonna actually cut it down to 3x3 squares, and then we're gonna use those on our cards. So some of them we might alter, but we're gonna start with 3x3 squares, okay? So you'll want to pick out 2 patterned papers, or it can be one pattern. The paper that I am using is called Shining Brightly, and it's a specialty paper. It's only single-sided. So if your paper is double-sided, you can use one sheet and just use both sides, and that would use even more of it. These ideas are also great for 6x6 paper packs. Okay, so we will need 6 3x3 squares for today's cards. So I'm going to share, before we get started, I'm going to share what else I've pulled out to use. I've also pulled out some gold foil because this paper it has some gold accents, and I've decided to keep my colors to a minimum. So I'm using Night of Navy, Vanilla, and Gold. So just the 3 colors. And keeping it to a minimum really simplifies things. All right, and then the bundle that I'm using is the Stars at Night bundle. This is from the Stampin' Up! September to December 2023 mini catalog. And this is a hybrid bundle. So I'll explain a little bit more about why it's a hybrid bundle and how that works in a little bit. But this is a beautiful bundle. It's part of a larger collection that's in the mini catalog, but I particularly like this bundle. I've got 2 ink pads that I'm going to be working with. Night of Navy and Versamark, and some gold embossing powder, which I've got my embossing buddy, my gold powder, and my heat tool. And then, of course, I had to throw in some ribbon and twine because if you watch my videos, you know I have a hard time not using ribbon and twine. So I'm using some of this beautiful Night of Navy and Gold glittered ribbon. So pretty. And some gold twine, which is coming off of its spool. And then I went to my retired product for my embellishments. So sometimes I like to throw in some retired product because I know that all of you don't stay current. You've got product that you haven't used forever. So pull that out. So I have got these gold glitter enamel dots that I am so close to finishing up. I just want to use them up. These are from years and years ago, but any kind of gold embellishment or embellishment that matches whatever paper you're working with will work. All right, so we are gonna go ahead and get started. So first of all, we're gonna take our 6 3x3 squares and we're gonna alter a few of them. So I have 2 of one pattern, so 2 of the vanilla ones, and 4 of these ones here. Okay, so of my navy pattern. Now one of them, I actually didn't have enough for 4 3x3 squares, but I had enough that I could cut 1.5 by 1.5 inch squares. So we're gonna start with doing that on this one. So if you have cut your 3x3 squares and are following along with me, you're gonna wanna take one of each of your patterns and do what I do with this piece, okay? So this measures 3x3, doesn't matter which side you put at the top. We're gonna cut at 1.5 inches and then rotate and cut at 1.5 inches again. And do the same for this piece. So you will have 8 1.5 inch square pieces, okay? So that's another idea. You don't have to start with a 3x3 for this. Sometimes I like to start with a larger piece and just kind of see what other kind of ideas I can create with a larger piece. And 3x3 I like that measurement because it's evenly divisible into 12. So you can get 16 3x3 squares out of a 12x12. So if you wanted to mass produce, you could easily cut a full 12x12 sheet into 16 3x3 squares, and you could make multiples of these cards. Okay, but like I said, if you didn't have enough, like I was missing, you just need 8 1.5 by 1.5 inch squares, okay, in 4 of each of 2 different patterns. Okay, so we're gonna do that, and then we're gonna take one of our blue patterns and we are gonna cut it at 1 inch and 1 inch again. So we've got 3 1-inch strips, and we're gonna set those aside, and we're gonna do the same thing to one of our white pieces. So 1 inch and 1 inch again. All right. And then the other 2 pieces that we have left, we're gonna leave as 3x3 pieces. So we have 6 strips of 1x3. We've got 2 pieces that measure 3x3, and we've got 8 squares that measure 1.5 by 1.5. So that's what we're gonna do with our pattern paper. We're gonna use all of those pieces. So let's move on to the next step. Now, I had mentioned that I'm using the Stars at Night bundle, and that this is a hybrid bundle. So what a hybrid bundle means is that you can cut and emboss at the same time. So this is a 3D embossing folder, and this particular die fits perfectly with these 3 stars that are on here. Like, you can feel when you get it in the right spot, it won't move. Like, it kind of nestles in there. So I've cut a piece of vanilla cardstock that measures 4.5 by 5.5. And I'm gonna position it in here and then carefully close. Actually, we'll do it this way. Let's move this out of the way. We're gonna put this over top so that we cut all of our stars. I'm gonna close this up, and then I'm gonna bring in my die cutting machine. Okay, and we use this like we use a 3D embossing folder. So if you've got the Stampin' Up! Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, you're using platform number 1, and then you'll put your embossing folder down, and then we're using platform number 4, so the dark gray platform. And then you'll just feed that in. And I'll slide this out, get this out of the way, and I'll show you what we get. Look at this. So when we pop this out, we get this beautiful embossed background and some die cut and embossed stars. So that's why it's called a hybrid embossing folder or bundle, because it both embosses and die cuts at the same time. Okay, so we're gonna use these 3 stars on some of our projects, but don't discount this. This piece is still great. It's got some great embossed areas on it. Those are great for, you can take some punches, some circle punches especially, in various sizes, and punch those out and create a fun background. You could also use this as a template and do some ink blending to create some subtle stars in the background. So there's lots of things that you can still do with this piece. So don't throw it away. All right, let's put this back. All right, okay, so first card, I have my white card base, or not white, my vanilla card base. I'm working with vanilla. For my card bases for white and vanilla, I always like to use our thick cardstock because it's a little thicker than our regular white or vanilla cardstock. I've also got a piece of navy cardstock. You'll be able to find all these measurements on my blog in today's blog post once it goes live. But this piece measures 3 1/4 by 4 5/8. Don't feel like you have to write everything down. You'll be able to refer to that blog post. Okay, and for this card, we're gonna take our 3 strips of navy and 1 strip of vanilla. And we're gonna start with one of the navy strips. And we're gonna line it up. And then we're gonna add another navy strip. So I'm lining it up so that I have an even border top, bottom, or sorry, top and the two sides. And then I'm gonna put in a vanilla strip. And then I'll put in the last navy strip. Okay, and we can, got a little bit more room at the bottom, so I might snip this so it's a little bit, I probably could have put a little bit more distance in between my pieces, but an easy solution is to just trim off the excess. So I'm just going to trim off a smidge. All right, now I've got a nice even border around this. This is going to get added to our card front. This paper is so beautiful. It's absolutely stunning. Because it's a specialty paper and it has those gold foil accents, you really don't need to do a lot to make a really beautiful project. Okay, and then remember these stars that we cut out, we're gonna take this star and we're gonna pop it up using some dimensionals. I'm gonna use some mini dimensionals because it's pretty small. And that's gonna get popped up right in the center here. Like that. And then what I did in advance is I took a little bit of gold foil and I die cut this star. There's actually two of them that are the same. So I die cut that from some gold foil. We're gonna add that to our card. Just like that. And that's beautiful just like that. But I wanted to add a greeting. So I need, I realized I don't have a scrap of vanilla. So let me grab just a scrap of vanilla. We're gonna use the greeting from the Stars at Night bundle that says celebrating the magic of the season. And we're gonna use our Night of Navy ink. So this is a long, narrow greeting. It's pretty much 4 1/4, it's just shy of 4 1/4 inches long. So it just fits across a card base if it's a portrait card. Okay, we'll do that and then bring in our paper trimmer and we'll trim it down just a little bit. And then we'll rotate it, make it a little bit thinner. So this will be about 1/4 inch, so quite narrow. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take some dimensionals and do I need strips or will this fit on here? Ah, it'll fit, okay. So I'm using some mini dimensionals and I'm gonna put one on kind of either end, peel off the backing, and it's gonna sit over top of this raised portion, so it doesn't need any in the center. Now I'm just gonna center that, just like that, and I'll trim off the bits that are hanging off the edge. All right, so we've got that, and then we'll finish it off using some of our enamel dots. I'll take one of these and we'll do a medium-sized one. Add that up there, and then maybe we'll take a small one. Does anybody remember these enamel dots? I love these ones. they're nice and flat, so even these big ones don't add a lot of bulk, and they have just a little bit of glitter in them. I loved these ones. All right, and there is our first card. So I didn't do anything on the inside of this one. I like to sometimes save some of my holiday cards without greetings on the inside so that I could pick a greeting based on the person that I'm sending it to. But you could easily add a strip of scrap paper along the top on the inside and decorate your envelope flap as well. Okay, so that is card number 1. Okay, let's set that aside over here. Okay, next up, we're gonna take another vanilla, I think, yeah, all of our card bases today are vanilla, thick vanilla card bases. Okay, so for this one, we're going to fold our base. We're gonna use a full 3x3 for this one. And actually, we don't wanna do this just yet. I wanna do something else first. So I've got a scrap piece of vanilla that measures 3 inches across, and I want to stamp on it. So I'm going to stamp my greeting and emboss it in gold. So I'm just going to use my embossing buddy, just give that a wipe so that I can remove any oils from my fingers or any static that is in the cardstock. And I'm going to use the Merry Christmas greeting from that same stamp set. All of the stamped images that I'm using and greetings that I'm using today are from that Stars at Night stamp set. So I'm going to ink it up with Versamark, stamp it down towards the bottom of my vanilla piece. And then I'll bring in my gold embossing powder, which is getting really low. I need to buy some more gold. Like, look at that, there's hardly any left in there. So I'll sprinkle that with some gold embossing powder, and then I'm gonna grab my heat tool and we're gonna heat it up. And you'll see, if you aren't familiar with embossing, the heat tool gets hotter than a blow dryer. A lot of people think that they could just use a blow dryer, but it does get hotter, and it will melt that powder into like a metallic finish. So you can kind of see it starting to change. So pretty. All right, now we can add adhesive to this. This is gonna go at the bottom so that we have about 1/8 of an inch from the bottom and on the 2 sides. And now we can add this piece. So this DSP or patterned paper is thinner than our normal patterned paper. So you do want to be careful with how much adhesive you add to it, because you can often see where you've added adhesive to it. So a thin layer is good. You know what, I've got a little raised bit here. Just gonna add a little bit of glue under there and stick that down. All right. So we've got that. Now we're gonna bring in a little bit of our ribbon. So I'm gonna put this across here just for a little added sparkle, because you can never have too much sparkle, right? And then this is gonna go across. I'm gonna line it up with the bottom of the navy patterned paper. I'll flip this over. And I'll use a little bit of seal adhesive here just to hold it in place. You can also use mini glue dots. And then we'll add some adhesive to the back of this and put it on our card front. We have a nice even border. And then we're gonna use another one of our stars. So this time we're gonna use this one. And I've die cut from gold. I've used this one to die cut from some gold foil. That's gonna get added to the center of our star. I haven't tried this yet, but I think these stars would look beautiful layered in gold and silver foil. I think that would be absolutely stunning. Okay, so we've got that, but I want to add a little bit more fiber in here. So I'm going to take some of my gold twine and tie a bow. Make my loops quite large. And then we'll use a mini glue dot. Stick that on there, peel it off. This is gonna go kind of at an angle like that. And then this will flip over and add some dimensionals. And do it this way. I'll add one here, so that the knot sits in between the dimensionals. Flatten that down a little bit. And look how pretty that is. Then we'll just finish it off with some of our enamel dots. I'll add one big one here, and we'll do a couple over here. And there we go, we've got card number 2. Again, you can stamp the inside and emboss it with a gold greeting. You could add strips of pattern paper inside. Adding strips of pattern paper inside your cards is a great way to use up some of those scraps. Okay, so that's card number 2. Card number 3. Okay, so some of the things that I've done here. I have embossed a layer of vanilla. So this layer measures 4 by 5 1/4. And I did not use the dies inside. So even though this is a hybrid bundle, you can use this as just a regular embossing folder as well. It does not always have to be used with the dies to cut out your stars. So isn't that beautiful? So pretty. And then I've also gone ahead and I've die cut this star from some gold foil. Okay, so let's start assembling. For this card, we're gonna use our last full 3 by 3 square. We're gonna add that to a piece of Night of Navy. I believe this piece measures 3 1/4 by 3 1/4. But again, you'll be able to find all those measurements in today's blog post. So that's gonna go in the center. And then we're gonna take this piece, add it to our card base. I love it when Stampin' Up! Comes out with patterned paper that has a vanilla neutral in it, because I always forget to use vanilla. I'm always pulling out white. Okay, and then this is gonna go in the center. So this time we're doing a landscape card. Actually, I'm gonna add a little bit more just because we're putting it on an embossed layer. So this is gonna go in the center. Okay, and then we're gonna take one of our 1 by 3 vanilla strips that we had left over, and we're just gonna snip this in half and add a little bit of adhesive, and it's going to get tucked right under here, and we're gonna line it up with the edge of our card front. And then we'll take this piece and do the same on this side. So this gives the illusion that it's one long piece. When we've actually only used like a little scrap. All right, so that's another way that you can stretch your scraps, is by doing little tricks like this. Okay, now for this one, we're gonna use this nice big star, and this is gonna go on flat. So I'm gonna use some multi-purpose glue, pop it right in the middle. And then we're gonna take some twine and tie a bow. So this twine is from our Simply Elegant trim, which comes with a spool of gold and silver. It's in the annual catalog. We'll use a mini glue dot to adhere this in the center of our star. And we're gonna go at an angle again, just like that. And then this star will go over top. So these are ideas that you can use over and over again, not just for holiday cards, but for any occasion with any patterned paper, and just switching up your focal point, and the cards will look completely different. Okay, so now we need to do our greeting. So I'm gonna pull back this vanilla strip, and I'm gonna do the same thing as I did with the first card. I'm gonna use this long, narrow greeting, stamped in navy. And we'll bring in our trimmer and just trim it down a little bit. And we're going to trim both ends. And we'll pop some dimensionals on either end. Bring back our card base, and then this is going to sit right over top of the center. Like that. And then the last step is just to add our dots. Oh, this guy doesn't want to come up here. There we go. All right. And there is card number 3. Isn't it beautiful? Oh my gosh, I love this pattern paper, this collection. Okay, card number 4. So let's have a look at what we have left for our patterned paper. We still have all of these 1.5 inch squares, and we still have 1 inch by 3 inch strip. So this next card, we're going to use 3 of our squares. So we're going to pull in 2 of the blues and 1 of the vanilla pieces. All right, let me catch up on the comments here. Good morning, everyone. Well, I guess it's probably afternoon now. Well, it's just about noon. Hello, hello, hello. I know, Sheila, this paper is gorgeous, isn't it? Thank you so much, Kathy. All right. Okay, so we are again starting with a vanilla card base. I've got an embossed piece of vanilla, and then I've also die cut this fun star right here from a piece of navy. And look at the detail on that. So not only does it cut the star, but it also adds that stitching detail, or the paper pierced detail in there. It's so pretty. And then I've got a scrap of vanilla to stamp and die cut, and a strip of navy. This strip of navy measures 1 3/4 by 5. All right, let's do our stamping first. Okay, so we are gonna bring in this greeting that says, wishing you the best and brightest holiday season. we're gonna take our embossing buddy, get rid of that static. We'll bring in our Versamark ink. And we're gonna stamp this right on here. Doesn't matter if it's straight because we're gonna die cut it afterwards. Sprinkle it with some gold powder. Looks like I missed a little bit there, so. Tap off the excess and then we'll bring in our heat tool. Okay, and then there's this fabulous die in the stamps or in the die set that actually cuts out the shape of the greeting. Look at that, how perfectly that is. So once it's die cut, it looks like that. All right. Okay, so now we've got all of our pieces. Actually, I'm gonna take, I had this bow in my little tray. I've got this little tray that sits beside me with that holds kind of bits and pieces of whatever collections I'm working with. And I just noticed this gold bow. So I just took that out of there. We'll use that. Okay, and bring in our bits and pieces. On this piece of navy, we're going to add our 3 squares. So I'm just gonna loosely set them on here to get them lined up, and then I'll push them down once I know that they're in the right position. Okay, that worked out better than the last time. Okay. All right. So our 3 squares are on here. Take our card base and add our embossed layer. So this Stars at Night bundle is what Laura and I are focusing on for this month's Class to Go. So I have posted in the description a link to where you can find all of the information. And if you're outside of Canada, there is a tutorial option available for you. And I don't think I put that in the description, but I can go back and add it to the description. Okay, so that's gonna go along the bottom. And then we're gonna add this fun star, but I just wanna figure out my positioning here. Okay, so I want that to overlap like that. So that looks like it's about in the right spot. So I'm making sure that there is a line that is going straight horizontally, just so that I can center these when I put this on top. Then we're gonna use a mini glue dot to add our bow. And again, at an angle so that we can see it peeking out. And then we'll add dimensionals to the back of this. And this is a little bit of a bigger piece, so I'm gonna snip some edges here. And then this is gonna go on here. Like that. And it's kind of fun being able to see the prongs from the star peeking out from behind. And then our last step is to add our enamel dots And look how close I'm getting to finishing this off. I might have to go back and just add a bunch of bling to some of these cards so that I have more than 3, maybe add 5 to each one of those, just so I can use that sheet up. All right, and there we go. There is card number 4. Okay, and we have one more to go. So we've got 5 squares and 1 strip left. We're going to use all of those pieces on this next card. Okay, so what I've got here is I have a scrap piece of vanilla, which I'm going to do some stamping on. I've got a piece of navy, and I've got an embossed gold foil piece. This measures 1.5 by 1.5, so it's the same as these, same size as these ones. So the first thing I'm going to do, and I am going to use my seal for this. Okay, I'm going to start with the vanilla, and I'm going to add it here so that I've got a little bit less than 1/8. I'm not going to push it down so that I can make sure I get all of these positioned. Then I'm going to do a navy. And then I'll do another navy. And then I'll do a vanilla. So because I started with 3 by 3 and I used an odd number of squares on that last card, I had an odd number of squares left in this one. So if you're doing these cards, you could just, if you've got a scrap of this particular pattern, you could cut an extra piece, but I chose to just add in that embossed gold for a little bit more gold, which I think is kind of a fun touch. Okay, so those all line up nicely. We'll bring in our card base, and then we're going to add this to our card base. Like that. And then this piece, we're going to take and we're going to do a strip of navy across the middle. And then we'll trim it off. And then we're going to add a little bit of ribbon here. So I'm going to take, I've cut, I don't know how long this is, about 8 inches. And I'm going to see if I remember how I did this. I think I tied a knot. Actually, you know what? We're going to wrap it around this and tie a knot. Although I don't know that this is thick enough. But let's give it a shot. It helps to wrap around. Yeah, this is not thick enough. Okay. So I'm tying a knot. I don't want to pull it too tight. If you've got something a little wider, it works better. Okay. So what you want to do is you want to do something like this. So create like a little ring with a knot on the end. And then I'm going to snip. So I want my knot to be closer to this side. So I'm going to snip this right about here. And then this is going to give me a nice knot right here, and I can wrap these ends around. So it saves wrapping a whole bunch of ribbon around the back where nobody's going to see it. It's kind of a waste of ribbon. So I'll just position that there and fold these over. And then we have this fun, pretty little accent to add to our card. So this is going to go on flat. So I'm going to add a fair bit of glue to this just because we've got that ribbon in the back. That'll go on here like this. So now we've used all of our scraps of patterned paper that we started with, but we still need to work on our focal point for this card. So I'm gonna bring in my scrap piece of vanilla, and I recommend that you use a Stampin' Pierce mat when you stamp some of these more solid images. There's only a couple solid images in this set, but when you stamp this one or even this one, just so that you get a better impression. So I'm gonna grab mine. And I'm going to use some navy ink. And I'm going to stamp that right on this vanilla piece. And we have this really pretty star that can be die cut using, remember this piece that we used at the beginning when we did our hybrid die cutting and embossing? That will cut that out so that it looks like this. And then I've cut another one of these stars from gold, and that's what's going to make up our focal point. So we'll flip this over and add some dimensionals. We're gonna do here and here. Just, it's going to sit over top of this ribbon, which is a little bit of bulk. So I'm gonna put the dimensionals on the top and bottom. And we'll take that and we're gonna slide this in here. Just like that. We'll add our gold star. Right in the center. And for this one, I actually didn't add, excuse me, a greeting on the outside, but I did add a greeting on the inside. But before we do that, we're just going to embellish with our dots, and then we'll go ahead and move to the inside. So we'll do that one, this one, and do one down here. All right. And then for the inside, I'm going to do some gold embossing. So I'll rub that and then bring in my Versamark, and I'm going to use this great grading on the inside of my card this time. Just try to make sure I've got this lined up so that it's straight. Actually, I don't think I'm in camera here. Let's move it up a little bit. All right. Hopefully that's straight. And we'll sprinkle that with some gold and then heat set it, and then all 5 of our cards are done. And I can share a little sneak peek of 3 of our class to go cards if you guys are interested in seeing them. I've got 3 of them, the 3 that I designed here with me. So for our classes to go, Laura always designs 3 and I design 3, which is nice. All right. So now I've got this great embossed greeting on the inside of my card. Okay, so let me bring back all 5 cards and then I'll show you a peek at the cards that we'll be making in class. So there's 5, number 4. I think this was number 1. Well, you get it. There's 5 cards there. So aren't they stunning? And they really did not take that long to make. They're absolutely beautiful. It really makes a difference when you've got beautiful paper and products to work with. So those are the 5 cards that we created today. And then here's a little peek at 3 of the cards that we'll be creating in class. So this one here, this one here, and then this one here. So pretty. Deadline to sign up for that class is Sunday. So make sure that you check the link if that's something that you're interested in. And if you are outside of Canada, the tutorial option is available as well. All right, so thank you so much for watching. I will include a full supply list in the description. If there's anything that you'd like to order and live in Canada, I would appreciate you ordering from me. And I hope you have a chance to get crafty this weekend. All right, thanks so much for watching. Take care.